Welcome to another tutorial based around graphical techniques in relation to Unit 1. And in the last tutorial I showed you how to take your own drawings and vectorize them into your own sort of digital graphics. What I'm going to show you in this second part is literally how a slightly simpler way of how we can take images from the web and then vectorize them also using the same process. It's a little quicker, but it's a way of being able to create your own type of customized graphics, and it may give you a technique that you might want to apply to when you start creating your own brand for this project. So what I've got here is just the tutorial run through showing you how to take your Twitter bird and customize it to this final solution, and then how we take the Starbucks logo at the bottom and again get it to this stage here. So what I'm first going to do is I'm just going to select all of this, and I'm going to very quickly delete it all, so I'm left with the two originals. So starting with the Twitter logo, excuse me, I'm going to very quickly just trace it. So I'm going to select the Twitter bird, go to Path, Trace Bitmap, and then I'm going to update, and that should give me a pretty clean trace, making sure obviously that the color section is then selected again, and I'm going to click OK. Now with graphics like this, what you might find is that it'll be difficult to differentiate between the original and the trace. You'll know that the trace is complete because the OK button will have popped up again, so to tell you that the trace is actually completed. So what we're going to do is just close that dialog box and pull the trace across. So now we've got a vectorized version of the Twitter logo. What I'm now going to do is I'm just going to very quickly duplicate it. So right click and duplicate and pull that across. What I'm also then going to do is I'm going to ungroup it so that I can start playing with some of the layers. So if I go to right click and ungroup, I can then start to pull layers across. And I'm going to get rid of most of the layers because pretty much they're the same until I've only got one left. Now I'll know that I've only got one left, as all I have at the end is some sort of dotty version. So I'll get rid of any of the unclean graphics and leave me with one layer. So what I can then do is obviously change that to any color I want it to be. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break that graphic apart so that rather than just have a Twitter bird on a colored background, I can actually color the Twitter bird itself. So I'm going to right click and duplicate it again, so I've got another version, and this time what I'm going to go is I'm going to go up to Path and I'm going to go to Break Apart. Now what that's going to do is shatter the vector paths, and what you'll notice is now that it'll be a block, but it's not, because if I click on where the Twitter bird used to be, you'll notice now that I've got a Twitter bird that I can just take away from the background. So now what I'm going to do is very quickly I'm going to colour it in exactly the same blue as the background of this Twitter background. And the way I do that is I go to the colour dropper tool here, or pick colours from an image. So I'm going to click on that, hover over the blue and click, and that will then change it to the exact colour of that background. Now in order to get it into a disk, what I'm now going to do is just create a very rough circle, position it somewhere appropriate, and then I'm going to duplicate this Twitter bird again, and I'm just going to change the colour of it. Now one thing to notice is if it doesn't appear in front of the circle that you've drawn, just very quickly go to Object here and Raise to Top, and that will bring it right to the top of the layers of this particular drawing. Now I'm going to hold down Shift and select the circles. The Twitter bird's already selected, and I'm going to go to Path and Difference, and that then leaves me with a Twitter circle, or Twitter icon, which I can use to customize my graphics in the future for the web or anything like that. Okay, the Starbucks logo, very much the same process. I'm just going to quickly go to Path and Trace Bitmap, make sure that the colors are selected, and hit Update. What I can do is increase the amount of scans, so that will give me the amount of layers that I'll be left with once I ungroup it. So if I go to maybe 12 scans, that should give me a slightly cleaner trace, which it will. So I'm going to just go to OK, wait for, as you can see, the OK button has disappeared. Now that has obviously completed, and I'm going to pull that trace across as the OK button is now appeared again. So I'm just going to quickly close the dialog box, and now what I've got is an editable vector. So I'm very quickly going to duplicate that, and I'm going to ungroup it. Once I've pulled it to the side here, and I'm going to right click and ungroup. Okay, now there's 12 layers here, so I don't need all of them. So what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to pick through the best layers that I can use, because some of them won't be very clear. So that obviously is too blurry. So I'm just going to click on the layer, pull it to the side and say no, that's no good. And for one of the 12, I'll find one that's really, really sharp that I want to work with. That doesn't look too bad. Pull that to the right, that's no good. Eventually what I should do is find a decent layer, so I think that that's probably the best layer in that top there. So I'm going to delete the ones that I don't need, and that should leave me then with an editable Starbucks logo, which I can change to any colour I want. Now to get it into the black box, it's very much the same process that we went through to get the circle. I'm just going to create a square, and then going to duplicate the Starbucks logo and change the colour of it to white so I can see what it's going to look like on a black background. Very much like the same process that we've gone through in the past. Now that that Starbucks logo is selected, I'm going to hold down Shift, select the black box, go to Path and Difference. What that should then give me is obviously a Starbucks logo cut out of the black square. Okay, one of the tasks that I want you to complete as part of Unit 1 is, and one of the pages that you'll have to show in your folder, is the range of graphical techniques that you have learned in this particular unit that you can then display and present in your folder. And I would like you to title it Graphical Techniques. So all of the bits and pieces that you've learned over the past 4 or 5 tutorials, could you please compose and present within A4 page as neatly and as tidily as you possibly can. You can use the format that I've chosen if you wish, or you might want to come up with something a little bit more creative. If you run out of space, create another page by all means. So if you have 2 or 3 pages of graphical techniques, that's absolutely fine.